Moving in my lonely room, drinking my sun and blue. Don't you try and think of a way, nothing's gonna work today. But that's alright, when I'm gonna try and find tonight.
Alrighty, Uncle Roddus back again for another record video. I had a hankering today, this morning. Early August here, folks, and actually it's a beautiful day, although we've had a pretty shitty week weather-wise, but it's a beautiful day here today. But this is the first Saturday I haven't worked in about 4 weeks, so things have really been quite busy. And I was lying in bed thinking about what I was going to do today, and I thought about some chores that I probably should go into town and sort out, seeing as I did have a Saturday off. And I had a real hankering to go to a record shop, because I haven't been in a record shop since record store day. All my purchases have been online, Discogs, Trade Me stuff, a few Trade Me stuff that I've been showing you, and then my usual online outlets. So I thought, well, I'll go and do some chores in this town and pick up some bits and pieces, some stuff I've been meaning to do for a few weeks. So, and then went down to Penny Lane, as I do. And I know that the other day Penny Lane on their Facebook page showed a whole bunch of new arrivals and that, and I didn't really. I mean, usually they take a picture of the bins and you can see what's on the top of the pile on the bins, but really you don't get to see much else. But so I got in there and flicked through the bins, and I was really, wasn't really finding a lot, to be honest. So obviously it had been picked over pretty smartly. I mean, you know, as it is. But anyway, I eventually did find some stuff, and got a real mix of stuff today, actually. And let's start with this one. Riotous Assembly, a punk compilation on Riot City from the early 80s. And I was going to put my reading glasses on. Was this 1981, 82? It would have to be at least 82. I first heard this on a cassette copy that a guy at school camp had, and he was playing it, and he played the last track, Chaotic Discord's Accident. It's got the most swear words I think I've ever heard in one song. And when I was like 16 years old at school camp, that was like really, really cool, man. And so, and anyway, I was into hardcore punk back in those days, and I had a lot of those, I had all the Punk and Disorderly comps and stuff like that. So yeah, I heard that song. You know, I picked this up not long afterwards. This is the New Zealand Music World release, and this is an original copy on that Music World. So Music World, I've said before, Music World were an oldies label. You know, they released brass band music and that horrible country music that, you know, oh yuck. Anyway, but yeah, the guy that ran the company, his son, was into hardcore punk, and he talked his old man into releasing and licensing a whole bunch of these sort of compilations. So this one came out, and a bunch of others. The Punk and Disorders were all released in New Zealand on the Music World. This I brought this especially again because of the two Vice Squad songs that start each side. And of course the Chaotic Discord song, although I do have that on a reissue of their album, which I bought. So yeah, fond memories, great LP. And speaking of compilations, I finally picked up a copy of this. Now I've been familiar with this record for many years, but I never owned a copy of it. I mean, I never heard it per se, but I'd seen it around in the stores, and it actually shows up fairly regularly in the bins at Penny Lane. And then someone posted it the other day and ranted on about how much he loved it when he was a kid and all this sort of stuff. And I thought, well, bugger it. And look, I got it for $20, a double LP. And it looks pretty playable. I mean, I've just cleaned them all, and they look really playable. There's no major scratches. It looks very clean. So hopefully it might be not too bad. Real interesting mix. I mean, I'm familiar with, the Public Image, of course. Was two Sex Pistols songs on here, although not off the Never Mind the Bollocks LP. Real mix. Mike Oldfield, for God's sake, and then Tangerine Dream, and then alongside the Sex Pistols and the Skids and the Ruts. So yeah, and then a couple of type reggae type things. Now I don't know for sure. It doesn't make any sense to me, but I just put this on my Discogs list, listed it, added it to my Discogs, and when I searched for it, it only came up as a New Zealand only release, and it didn't have any other issues on that page. So surely not. Now this is, I mean, obviously this is a New Zealand version because it's got RTC. It was distributed by RTC, and it's got their stuff on the sleeves and stuff. But I really would find it difficult to believe this was only ever released in New Zealand, but I could be wrong. But yeah, like I say, on the Discogs, when you enter Virginity, this record does come up, but only this copy and only New Zealand. So uncertain about that, but if that is only a New Zealand one, that's pretty cool, I think. Now, as I said, I was thumbing through the bins and I was going, there's not really a lot here, you know, there's nothing that's taking my breath away, until I sort of actually stumbled on this one. And that was a moment. And I used to have a copy of this many years ago. You do not see it around. It is pretty rare. I mean, it's not rare as in it's not fetching big dollars on Discogs, and there's half a dozen copies for sale I see when I was listing it. This is the original stereo version, all on Pi Records, and it's from 1969. Shaky Vic were a blues band from the UK. It's pretty much all cover stuff. Yeah, I always had a soft spot for this. It was one that I picked up in a second-hand shop many years ago. It was a pretty beat-up copy. When I got this home, I thought, I wonder if this was my original copy that I sold here in Christchurch. But to actually know, this is a lot better condition than the one that I had. So yeah, I snapped this up. Really pleased. I hope I haven't heard it for a very long time, so I hope that it still stands up for me. So yeah, that was my stand back and take a breath moment when I covered that, and that was probably the most expensive record of the day. I was pleased to find this Mandingo. I mean, this is a real, as you can see, it's a real mix of music here. We've got, you know, hardcore punk and then post-punk compilation with some other old hippier stuff on it. Then we've got some old English blues, and then we've got this, which is some sort of big band mutant funk sort of stuff from the early 70s. Now I actually have another Mandingo album, I think their third. I picked it up quite a while ago. I'd heard them on a podcast and was really impressed with their music. So this was their first LP, the Primeval Rhythm of Life, and yeah, again, pretty cheap price. This is actually released here in New Zealand on World Record International, or as in World Record Club. The World Record Club was a record club I think that you subscribed to back in the day. There's the label there. A lot of classical music got released in New Zealand like that, World Record Club. It's not a label that I would put a lot of prestige into, to be honest, but I'm probably not going to find this on any other label in New Zealand in the wild. So yeah, don't know what it's going to be like. I did enjoy the third LP, so looking forward to that. So yeah, like I say, real interesting mix of music that I picked up there this morning. Now I had a quick listen to this one just before I was setting up to make this video, and I was kind of pleased to find it in the shop. Now, I have another Archie Shep. You do not see his music around in the shops very often, and when you do, I guess it gets snapped up pretty quick. Now, I got this for a pretty damn cheap price, but there is a bit of stuff missing off the top of it, but apart from that, it's alright. Now, turns out when I got home and checked it out while I was cleaning it on Discogs, this is a reissue of an original BYG release, and I've always keeping my eyes out for BYG releases. Well, you know, if I happen to see them, I don't spend a lot of time looking for them, but they don't turn up in my neck of the woods very often, the BYGs. And if they did, I'll be snapping them up. But this is the very first one I've ever bought, but it's not an original BYG. It is, in fact, a reissue from 1979 out of England on Affinity Records. Anyway, I put part. So what is it? Yasmina, a Black Woman. I put it on, that's the title track, pretty much. That takes up the whole of side one. Put that on, very African rhythm, free jazzy type shit, and man, it was great. It was really good. Like I say, I know who Archie Shepp is, and I'm familiar with what he does because I have another one of his records, but I haven't got much of his music. But I'm really pleased, and I got this for $20. Now this sort of stuff, his records, you know, the avant-garde, free jazzy sort of stuff doesn't sell very cheaply in New Zealand. It would tend to go for $40 to $50, depending on condition. The vinyl looks like it and sounds pretty bloody good. Actually, the recording sounds fantastic, just what I've heard of it before. And possibly along similar lines, more free jazzy sort of stuff. Here is the art ensemble of a Chicago fanfare for the Warriors. Again, this is actually only $20. I got this quite cheap. This is a 1982 reissue of the original 1969 one, still on Atlantic Records. Atlantic Records did pretty good pressing, so I don't know what they like in the 80s so much, but I think they're pretty good. I have an Atlantic compilation from the 80s of T-Bone Walker, which sounds fantastic. Yeah, so I got 2 ECMs that the Art Ensemble did, and they were a little bit more mellower than their earlier stuff. So it'd be interesting to see what this one sounds like. Pretty wild, I'd imagine. So cover's in pretty good nick apart from the little hole in the corner, and the vinyl looked pretty good and it cleaned up really well. So I got a nice discount off that lot from my friend Gary behind the counter, so that was really cool. I'm pleased about that. So yeah, good haul. I was really pleased after all that, after thinking I was almost going to leave the shop empty-handed. Heaven forbid. There was a couple others I had. Yeah, I did put 2 back. Because I was thinking I really don't need to blow too much money here today. I've got other things to do, bills to pay. Just wanted to quickly talk about these. I've just purchased a packet of these. I've been using MoFi inner sleeves for the last couple of years, and I pretty much put them in most of the records. Now I want to talk about sleeves, inner sleeves. A lot of the new vinyl comes out in those paper sleeves with no kind of coating on the inside. Now in the old days they used to have a bit of a shiny coating inside of the paper sleeve, so that the record would slide in and out quite nicely. But pretty near all of the modern sleeves that are paper come with nothing inside them, and the paper sticks to them from static like shit to a blanket. And you pull the record, especially when they're new out of the shrink wrap, you pull them out and you feel the paper sticking to them and sliding out and scraping across the vinyl. And there's often a lot of crap in the bags from the process of manufacture, and I've had times where I've had to practically rip the bags off because they were so stuck to them. And I think that they're really, really poor, and I really detest them. Also, I've had a bunch of records like the Blue Note reissues, although they are fantastic records, fantastic sounding pressings, and I really like them. Okay, they're probably not up there with the MoFi remasters or the other audiophile ones, but they still sound pretty good to my ears. And but they came in a sleeve, in a more sturdier cardboard sleeve, but again, no real coating inside the sleeve, and they stuck really firmly with the static electricity to the internal sleeve. So I took them all out. Some of them I actually ended up ripping the sleeves open because they were so stuck in them. And when you pull them out like that and they're stuck to the sleeves, you can scratch your records. If there is stuff inside the bag, and quite often there can be little bits of paper or little bits of shit that get from the manufacturing process. Anyway, I mean, a lot of guys do release albums in plastic, in a plastic thing. Like a paper sleeve with a plastic insert, and I tend to keep those. I don't tend to throw those away. Anyway, I've been using the MoFi ones, but and I got to the stage where I was importing them off Amazon from the States, and it was cheaper than paying $60 for a packet of 50 here at the local hi-fi shop, which is where I started buying them from. And then I thought I'd give Real Groovy's one to go, because they said they had a 4-layer rice paper one, and yeah, I got a pack of 100 for $75, which is definitely cheaper than what I was getting them from the States with the MoFi. The MoFi ones, they have like this. They have the paper sleeve, which gives it a bit of rigidity in the back, and then it's sandwiched between two bits of sort of nice plastic, and the plastic is anti-static, and it's nice and smooth, and it doesn't scratch the records, and the records don't get built up in too much static and shit like that. So this looks pretty much the same as a MoFi sleeve, except that it's got the additional layers, and I think it says 4 layers, so there must be 2 layers of paper on each side of the sleeve, and it actually makes it a little bit more rigid and more easier to get into the sleeves, because sometimes the MoFi ones bunch up, and someone else had said that to me a while back because they were buying a different sleeve which was more rigid than the MoFi ones. Nagi Oka, who makes my styluses, do a sleeve, but they want $75 for 50, and I think that's so far I've been really impressed with these ones here, and so that's less than $1 a sleeve, and they're great. So basically any paper sleeves, or today a lot of those records I just bought today, they had the older style plastic sleeves in them, and they are horrible. You know, you put the records in, they sort of don't go in very smoothly, and they were shit. I hate those. Anyway, blah blah blah, rant. Right, so the rest of the records I've got to show, where are they? It's this compilation that it turned up on Facebook, and turns out that in the New Zealand Vinyl Lovers Facebook group, there are a lot of musicians in that group, and several of them are on this compilation. And the compilation is called A Low Tides Rising, Explorations Around the Theme of New Zealand Acoustic Music. Now originally it was released on Pseudo Arcana, I think it's called. Doesn't tell you that on here because this is a reissue, but originally, yeah, this is underground stuff again. You know, more New Zealand underground, lo-fi, droney sort of stuff. Yeah, pretty cool. I've got records by some of the people on here: Virtual Cat Motel, Pumice, CJA, Tim Cornelius, who I've actually met out of Sandos Lab Technicians. G Frenzy, I mentioned him on another record I picked up recently that he did something with Pumice's Stephen Neville, etc. Anyway, this is really interesting compilation. Lovely packaging, lovely thick cardboard. The only problem with thick cardboard, just let me change this record back. The only problem with really thick cardboard is that it can actually be really tight getting the sleeves in. But yeah, anyway, so yeah, this is a limited edition of about 250 copies, and yeah, and it showed up because some of the members that are of that group, or that Facebook group that are on this record, they were getting their copies. I don't know, I guess they were getting given copies or whatever, and for their reference, and they were. A couple of them were showing, or one of the guys showed it, and I said, I want one, and once he got the copies for public distribution, he let us know, and yeah, really cool. So that's going to be it's going to become a bit of a legendary New Zealand comp, maybe. I mean, well, certainly going to be hard to get one. Another compilation that I picked up recently is this one, A Flame Tree. This is one of the New Zealand composer editions from the 1970s and 80s. I'm guessing this one must be from the 70s. On Kiwi Records. So I'd been aware of this one. This one's actually quite hard to get, and I paid a little bit more than I would have liked to. And I was under the impression that this was an electronic compilation of electronic classical and experimental electronic-y classical type stuff, like the Kiwi electronic music box set and the Horizons one, which I bought and it got lost in the mail. But no, unfortunately, this isn't. Yeah, this isn't electronic. It's more mostly there is a little bit of electronics I think on the last one, but it's actually all normal type classical. But it's more avant-garde classical, which actually in New Zealand is a little bit more unusual. Like free jazz, man. I mean, there ain't much free jazz in New Zealand, and there ain't much more avant-garde classical. There is some great classical music. I like a lot of New Zealand classical music I've heard. Some of it's really cool. I don't listen to it a lot. I did like this, but I was a little bit disappointed with the fact that it wasn't the electronic one which I thought it was. And still really pissed that I never got the Horizon compilation, which I bought. I did get refunded by the Discog seller. So I did buy this off the same seller. He graded it near mint. Well, it's absolutely nowhere near mint. I was really, really disappointed with that. I haven't sort of said anything to him, but I'm a bit weary. If I buy anything off him again, I might make a comment because, yeah, to be honest, it actually had some very obvious marks, and even though I cleaned it up, it looks a lot better. It's stuck in one place, so it certainly wasn't. I mean, okay, these guys don't play the records because they have so many out for sale, but yeah, a little bit disappointed in that one. This has just been reissued on who's Warner Music's reissuing this. This is Herb's first EP from 1982, 81, 82. This is reggae music, New Zealand reggae music. Maybe earlier than 82, is it? I don't know. I've only played this once, so I was a little bit disappointed, to be honest. And also, I got a feeling, and I need to listen to it again, even though I have cleaned it, there is some issues. There was some noise, there was some distortion on this, and I don't know whether that's suppressing or they're recording. Herb's got quite famous in New Zealand for a song called French Letter, which isn't on this comp. This is not a comp, on this EP. This is a 6-track EP. I think they must have been on their next LP. I don't know why, but it mentions. See, it says, what be happening? What be happen? Herb's debut, 1981. Yep, first Pacific reggae album released in the world, including Dragons and Demons, Azania, and Letter to France. Well, there's no track on the back here called Letter to France, so I don't know what's happened there. Said, yeah, a letter to France, or French letter, originally intended for inclusion on this groundbreaking record, but it's not. I don't know why they said that. Anyway, I don't know, I need to give this some more attention because it did not fire me up too much to start with, and also it did. I've got to check about those sound quality issues, unless I just had something on my needle. Recently, I picked up from flying out. I picked up a few records. Nice, yeah. So I cashed in my points again. That's what I did. I cashed. I'm pretty sure that's what these are. I cashed in my bonus points. So yeah, I had been taking me about 6 months to build up enough points, and I got 3 records. So Hamish Kilgore and the Bad Franks, Frankenstein. This is a kind of a brother-sister record or whatever to Finkelstein, which was another record he put out. There is also a 10-inch Funkelstein or something, I think, or whatever, that came out in association with this, which you can buy. And also there was another one, which if you bought the Finkelstein LP off of their Bandcamp, I think, and that, which unfortunately you had to get shipped from the US, which was really expensive, you got a free record with that, which I never got my hands on, a limited edition of about 50, I think. I never got my hands on it mainly because I don't want to pay the fucking postage from the United States, because it's almost more than the record itself. So there was that one, and then I finally jumped on this, Lawrence Arabia. I have a couple of his other records. This is a singles club compilation. So what he did, I think, was he released a 7-inch single each month for 12 months. Now I don't know whether they were single-sided or not, because there is only 12 songs on here. Yeah, I've only ever listened to this once so far, so I can't say too much about it. But there is one track that I was a bit familiar with because Chris had played it on one of his shows, one of his podcasts, and that had become more familiar to me. And the last one of the flying outs that I got on my freebies is this reissue. Guy du Blé Embole. And the album is self-titled, I think, just called Embole. It is a rather rare reissue, or not, the reissue is not rare, but the original is quite rare, from 1982. I was familiar with this guy off a compilation or two, you know, some of those Afro-funk compilations that I have on CDs, out of like Soundways and Analog Africa. But yeah, this is a little bit later. I'm a little bit disappointed with it. It's not as Afro funky maybe as I liked it to be. It's probably a little bit more just straight funky. Yeah, and it says featuring the disco monster. Maybe, yeah, a bit more disco-y. I don't know. I wasn't. First listen is a little bit disappointing, but never mind. Right, and finally, a bit of a story on this one. This is what's playing behind me in the background. Check out this funky, psychedelic-y, trippy-looking cover. So, Think is the name of this record band, and the record is called We'll Give You a Buzz, and this is from 1976 out of New Zealand. This is their only soul album, I believe. Yep, I'm pretty sure. Oh no, actually someone did show a cassette that they released, I think, earlier, but that's never been reissued in any other format, and be near impossible to find. But this is their soul LP on vinyl that they did from 1976. This came up for auction. Now, this is pretty rare in New Zealand, doesn't come up very often, and usually, well, this doesn't sell for huge money, but it's still a pretty hard one. I didn't know anything about the music. I had not heard the music, but I knew that if I could get my hands on a copy, I would love to have one. So the auction came up on Trade Me, and I was watching it for a few days before it really, up until the last day. Well, I was watching it up until the last minute. There was about 30 people also watching it. The condition of the record, the cover was listed as VG or VG plus, and it pretty much is. It's got a few very minor creases. There's no dings. There's no rips. The spine is a bit worn, but I mean overall it's in fine condition. But the record was only graded as good, and I looked at the photos and I put the magnifying cursor over them, had a look at them, and they looked very dirty, and there were some marks. But marks can be tricky. Sometimes they look worse than they are, and they don't actually come through, or they're very, there's not much. You don't hear anything worth worrying about. Sometimes, of course, they can be pretty bad. So I was looking at it, and I think, well, if I put this through the cleaner, it would probably clean up pretty nice. So I watched the auction. It was basically, the starting bid was $100, and I thought, well, fuck it, if I get this for $100, I'll be pretty happy, and I can clean it up, and hopefully I'll get a pretty good record out of it, and then hopefully it might be quite good musically. Well, bugger me, I waited till the last seconds. I put in a bid for $100, and fuck me if someone hadn't put in an auto bid and just outbid me. I put in several more bids. I keep getting outbid. No, you bastard. The auction auto extended, so anyway, I actually put in. I thought, bugger, I can afford to buy this record at a bit of I'm willing to pay a little bit more. I'm going to willing to take the risk that it's going to be okay, because this looks more dirty than anything. So I got to lead the auction, and the auto extended was in force, and it went for about a minute, I think. And just before it was ready to expire, this other guy put in another bid. You bugger. So I put in a counter bid, and he had done an auto bid. So I put in about 3 or 4 bids, and he counted them all until I got to whatever he said his limit there, and then I was in the lead again. And by that stage, I was up to $137, and I thought, I really don't want to pay any more than that, I hope. I really don't. And I was almost thinking, come on, mate, put in another bid and win the fucking auction, because, this record doesn't look all that good a condition, and I don't like paying 3 figures for records, but I have paid more than 137. Anyway, the auction, I won it. I won the auction. He obviously gave up, and the rest of the people who were watching, the other 30 people, obviously thought the record was too much in rough condition. So I thought to myself, okay, well, I've got the record, but have I made a bit of am I going to get a good record? Got it here, arrived about 3 days later, pulled it out of the sleeve. As I say, the sleeve itself, this is all really good condition, nice condition. Pulled the record out, it was pretty grubby, it was pretty dirty. So I put it in the cleaner, and I gave it a clean, and I could see that most of it was just dirt and dust and marks, fingerprints and stuff. So I gave it a double cleaning, and it looked really good. It did. It actually looked really good when it came out of the vinyl cleaner. And I've actually made a little demonstration video of my record cleaning machine, which I'll post up at some stage, if I haven't already. And yeah, it looked good. And there was one mark on side 1 that looked like it may cause some problems, and there was another mark on side 2 which looked even more suspicious, but nothing real big. And so I put it on. Side 1 played absolutely fantastic. The background noise was far quieter than I expected, and a lot quieter than a lot of fucking new records, to be honest, that I buy. So I was really, really impressed. Great, good recording, nice, 70s quality analog recording, and musically I'm loving it. This is, great New Zealand progressive rock, up there with Dragon. The musically, this album's fantastic. So side 1 played through, no scratches, no bumps, no jumps, no loud clicks or anything, just one little click in between the track. Side 2 started off fantastic, played really well, got to that mark, there was a little bit of a for about 20 seconds in the song, and then it repeated again a little bit later in the song, but very quietly. When the music's up loud, you don't really notice it that much. Rest of the side played fantastic. So I got a really quite rare record for a reasonably good price that plays fantastically well. If he had cleaned it, he probably could have graded it very good instead of good, and he might have got $200 for it, maybe, I don't know. So I'm really pleased with this. I have been giving it a bit of a hard time on the turntable. I'm really impressed with it. It's a great rock, pop, proggy sort of LP, and yeah, really, really good. And shame I didn't put anything else out. All right, I think I've prattled on for long enough. So yeah, really pleased with today's finds, especially those jazz ones, and well, all of them really. They're all pretty cool. And yeah, the latest New Zealand ones. So got some pre-orders coming, and they're all taking a while. I got a couple that have been held up through the distributions, hasn't turned up, and they're not here yet. They were supposed to have been released last month, and they didn't turn up. Another one that's in the mail should be here tomorrow or on Monday, and then a couple more that I've got. So yeah, just the records have slowed down a wee bit. I've gone a bit. I've been going a bit ape shit this year, but just trying to slow things down a bit. All right, happy vinyl hunting, folks, and we'll see you next time. Cheers.